Hi, everybody. This is part two of 1,545 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered. Code Red, internal murder on Fort Bliss. Let's see if it's working. I paused in the middle. Okay, looks good. Very, very busy day. Look, we're at midnight. We're burning the midnight oil. And it's because things are really escalating. They're escalating in El Paso because Richard's case is so big. He was ordered to be murdered. And he was a whistleblower. He was a soldier on Fort Bliss. He saw something. He said something. The prime suspect is Dallas Wayne Hart, his platoon leader, whose uh, father is James Courtney Hart of the VA there, that sits on the Pueblo, which is the Disability Benefits Health Board, and that easily can be weaponized. We suspect it's been weaponized. We you know, um, the connections with Leilani Hart, who's notorious. I just put up a post about her. Notorious for her, she's a convicted criminal. She's a confirmed convicted criminal um, with so many. So she has a lot of misconduct, okay, to say the least, and manipulation. She's a manipulator. And one of the ways she manipulates um, is through um, sexual favors. She has a history of affairs and, disloyalty to her family, disloyalty to her children, disloyalty to the military, disloyalty to her jobs. She has a history of this, and she's been booted out, right? She's been booted out of groups, including the veterans group, including Park University. Everywhere she goes, she leaves a wake of crimes and trouble, darkness, absolute regret for people left behind. When people don't report, and I've talked to several of the victims, there's a lot of regret there. Regret that of their fear because of the cartel connections, the uh, the other gang connections, or the criminal connections, the misconduct connections, the manipulation connections, uh, you know, we know um, that Richard um, was in the possession of video evidence that he turned in because we were told over and over again that they were, what do you call it, airdropping all of these illicit videos. And so, Richard, absolutely, we know that the sex cult was all in the barracks. We know that it was all on Fort Bliss. We know that because of the doggy mask with the colonel and his officer crew, um, you know, being connected with this whole doggy culture, sex cult culture. We know that through months of being harassed, and the harassment was on a very vile, vulgar, sexual, um, level. And that's their mind. That's how they live. That's who they are. They control. They manipulate through sexual means, and it's very, very dangerous because it has compromised the DA's office and the Cartel now, we have confirmed, has been infiltrated into that office. And, if you need names, Diaz, look up Diaz, look at Alba, look at Moya. Moya's a big name. Moya's a very big name. Sanchez, um, and Chavira. And so, and there's more. And of course, connected to Ortega, connected to Belen Rocha's family, and everyone that's been paying attention to Bliss Avenue, to Richard's case, knows um, uh, Belen Rocha's involvement in this, and the connection with Danae Katzen, um, with her connection with Bliss Avenue and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, which is connected to Leilani Hart. Um, so it seems so complicated at first, but once you know what is going on, and we were told at the beginning that, oh, no, Cartel's not involved. Just know that Cartel's not involved, and we were like, okay, that means Cartel's involved, okay, because we weren't even thinking Cartel, and not even looking in that direction, and so for that to be mentioned to us over and over again, and then knowing who was trying to influence us, who was trying to be with us all the time and get information from us and get to know us and get to try to manipulate us and everything, um, and knowing their connections and stuff. Absolutely. We now we knew that the cartel was involved. And now with this confirmation with Bill Hicks in that office, and, really curious to understand why Governor Greg Abbott would want to appoint Bill Hicks, who has allowed and participated um, in letting the cartel, the Juarez cartel, um, who is connected, who's made deals, with other cartels, um, to be in our district attorney's office, and having, influence in American criminal legal procedures. And this is such a clear um, violation of our rights in every which way in the United States. And when you see that the DA's office, DA Bill Hicks, he absolutely should be arrested for compromising the district attorney's office with the Mexican cartel. Um, it's the you see why nothing was done about Mario Raskin Ortiz being illegally in the very, very important judicial office, chief medical examiner's position that makes over 430, almost $450,000 a year from taxpayers, and yet we know through the evidence that we have um, from the Walmart mass shooting victims that those death certificates, those autopsy reports, were tampered with, were not right, were done not right. They were not, we have it confirmed, they weren't right. Um, and, we absolutely got his name first and foremost because it got connected to our son's remains. And, and there's more with Chris Martin and his connections with James Courtney Hart and other connections, like with CID, Quantico, Howell, and his family connections, and all of that, and it will also play a part in getting answers to our son's remains, getting what's left of our son. We want whatever we can get of our son, whatever is there, whatever they have, which is absolutely the it's just hell, y'all. It is just absolute hell to have to be on a live stream talking about this. Um, a U.S. Army soldier murdered on Fort Bliss, and we have to absolutely, over 4 years, uncover that the cartel is involved, connected to our system, our DA's office, and more and more. And with Bill Hicks being connected to Fort Bliss, it's connected to our military, which is national security threat, which is a national security threat, and is so disrespectful for every one of our service members, and for every one of us as Americans that pay $1 trillion military and so much money, billions of dollars for security, and to have that all be compromised, and our national security to be compromised, and our service members to be so disrespected, and even our veterans like my husband, who's a total hero in this. He's absolute total hero in this. um, I just can't even explain it to you what a hero um, Richard is, uh, and Robert Halliday is. It is just out. I don't think we've had heroes like this very often. I don't think so, because we're in a mess. We are in a mess. Our security has been totally breached. And Richard was calling that out. For what? For human trafficking? For weapons trafficking? For ammunition trafficking? To deplete our service members' ammunition and weapons and supplies, to profit off of them by trafficking them over the border, and then human trafficking, and then compromising our soldiers by bringing in the young girls during the COVID lockdown, bringing in the young girl, 14 years old, to live in the barracks to be pimped out, to test and to tempt our soldiers and compromise them to the point where they understand they lose their esprit de corps and start drinking heavily and taking drugs. When you live in a barracks that is not following the standard operating procedures, and you have a compromised command sergeant major, compromised first sergeants, compromised Major General Clem Coward, compromised commander of Fort Bliss, so many, and a compromised CID, and then a compromised DA office, and you see justice being thwarted to protect criminals, and the media helping them. These are young service members that, it. I know they need to have the faith of a mustard seed, and Richard did, and that's why he became a whistleblower. And these mustard seeds are going to spread all across the country and grow into amazing living trees with so much life. That was my dream at the beginning, before any of this. And And don't believe me, go to my very first um, my very first videos. I was talking about this dream that I didn't even understand it. And I do now. Because these soldiers that um, were not um, inspired by their leadership, but were their thumbs were put on them. Look, Asia Graham was raped in the barracks. She was found dead in the barracks. Glennon Oakley Jr., so excited to be a soldier. Watch the video of the August 3rd, 2019. And he was found dead in the barracks. This is a failed leadership because they have been compromised by serving foreign and domestic enemies. And we have now gotten hard evidence of some of them. Those that are compromised with Dia, with the Alba, with the Moya, with the Javira, and that's connected to Nadal Bayim. There's so many connections that it's hard to explain it to people. But this is connected to not only to Belen Rocha, but to Nadal Bayim. And there's more because of Leilani Hart and James Hart and the businesses and the LLCs and of course FitFam El Paso and Veronica Escobar and Joanne Bernal and but with this DA office, everyone knows that the manager is Diaz. And so that's easy for everyone to understand. It's kind of like this El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. Everyone can see those imposters. Everyone can see those imposter judges on that court pretending to have legal authority and understanding that they were appointed, which means that they don't have the legal authority. Since 2015, they must be elected. So everything they have done is botched. That's easy for people to understand. Oh, why haven't we been able to elect the judges that have so much power over us, that can take our children away, that can weaponize the law against us or rightfully interpret the law? Why can't we vote for them? It's our right. And that right has been taken away. Our civil rights, those in El Paso, and for Richard Halliday, our son, who was murdered for being a whistleblower on Fort Bliss. There's no other reason for Richard to have been murdered. He was a whistleblower. He was exposing this criminal network in El Paso. It's very clear. And because of the entire situation of it, they try to hash up any other excuse for Richard, but nothing else fits all the evidence. Nothing else. And we have hard evidence. I mean, you would have to be absolutely insane. And there is, who was it? I think it was Vice President nominee Vance, who was, talking to this news anchor that was interviewing him and about the Argentinian gangs that were taking over these apartments. And she's like, hey, wait a minute. That was just an isolated few cases of gangs of well, it's so late at night, y'all. these gangs taking over these apartments in Aurora, Colorado. And he's like, can you listen to yourself? Listen to yourself. You know, one gang taking over a whole apartment complex, one gang taking over an apartment building is too much. What are you talking about? In beautiful Aurora, Colorado, can you listen to yourself? And this is, uh, then I was listening to this other major, very neutral ethical journalist, I believe, very ethical journalist, and he's saying what is so scary is this cover up that the president of the United States is not in his right mind, and that was covered up for years, and they were even, you know, are they listen? Why are people so afraid to speak the truth? Is are the threats that severe? And I absolutely, we've been threatened. Our lives have been threatened for wanting to know what happened to our soldier son. Our lives have been threatened, y'all. I was for months every day harassed with the most vile, vulgar, sexually explicit threats, intimidation to shut me up on these live streams, to shut me up for wanting to know what happened to my son, our son, Richard. And I want everyone to know this. We were obeying CID. We were obeying, doing what they asked of us to do, the command. Because in the meetings, because it was their good graces that they brought Richard back on the rolls after kicking him off, wanting to wash their hands of this, because they knew he had been murdered, and they wanted to cover it up because they didn't want to have another Vanessa Guillen situation, because at the time they were losing their jobs. And I hope that it's more than just losing their jobs this time, because what they have done in this case is so egregious, so evil, so wicked. And we were, from the very beginning, compliant and doing what they asked for us to do. Bring them leads. Investigate our sons. You need to look into it. You need to investigate. Like, we don't have time to bother with this. We can't help you. We cannot help you unless you bring us leads. That's what we were told. And we brought them leads, and step by step, they attempted to cover it up. So we knew it was a cover up. And when whistleblowers were brought in, when witnesses were brought in, when the congressional request was brought in, they absolutely did everything to attempt to cover this up. And because we've been persistent in uncovering, we have uncovered that the DA is compromised by the Juarez Cartel. And more, that that the whole magistrate court has to stop right now. They cannot move. That district court office that is ran by, they say, oh, it's not ran by Medrano's wife. It's ran by another lady, but look, Medrano's wife is in that office, And that's where the computers were also compromised, that uh, access was breached, or the security was breached. Access was given to bring up Richard's case on their computer and snapshot. What camera they used, I don't know, but I do know that that picture ended up on social media illegally. And because they didn't expand the picture, because they didn't crop the picture, they just put the picture on there because they were so emboldened, or, they just is so desperate to cover up or to put out a false narrative about our son Richard, that they didn't concentrate what they were doing. And the picture then proved that it came from that government computer, from that office, because of the emails behind it and things like this. And look, they won't answer us. They won't start arresting because of these breaches in security. And then with Richard's case being connected to the Walmart mass shooting, now they're trying, this subpoena of Loretta Lynn Hewitt, who resigned in protest. Um, oh, she was put over this Walmart mass shooting case and resigned, rightfully so, because she was told that she couldn't move it. She couldn't move it forward. It had to be a political case. It was only for political use and for money and for a cash grab. And so she's been subpoenaed because, the only thing that we can make out of what Joe Spencer is trying to do right now with telling everyone 5 years later that Patrick Crusius has autism, and that now that his civil rights have been violated. Yes, his civil rights have been violated. He was brought in front of the MAC court against imposter judges. He was arraigned by an individual who had no authority to even arraign him. I mean, think about that. His civil rights have been very violated. And so think about, he was involved in a mass shooting, and we can't even arraign him properly because our courts have been compromised. Our DA has been compromised. Our medical examiner has been compromised. And more. And our military has been compromised. El Paso is a mess. So you can have a person that's involved in a mass shooting. No, I don't believe he was the lone shooter. I believe there were other shooters, but he was involved. And we can't even, that is an open shut case. He surrendered himself. And 5 years later, they can't close this case. They can't give the people of El Paso justice. They can't give the victims justice. They're sucking the money in. And now Joe Spencer is, oh yeah, by the way, he has autism and his civil rights have been violated. Yeah. And pray that this doesn't affect the federal case. It's going to be a total mess. A total mess. And all the while, the other shooters are walking around or at large. We've got these main criminals. We've got so many criminals that are involved in all of this trafficking, all of this fraud, being imposters, being usurpers, because don't forget that Bill Hicks not only has compromised the DA office, but he's a usurper. He's a usurper. He can't even sign the anti-bribe line on time. You need to do that first before you take your oath. Otherwise, it's void. And if it's void, that means did he take a bribe? And then he admits it in an interview that there's a bribe deal. So if he can't do things in order that of the law, then he's a usurper. He's illegitimate. Why is he even pretending? Why isn't he arrested? And now he appoints Diaz, who is compromised with the cartel, as the manager for the DA office there. And you have people like in the Biden administration that are not saying anything. Oh, yeah, by the way, Bill Hicks is a usurper. Oh, by the way, we're compromised by the cartel, but we can't say anything. Oh, by the way, our president is having some memory problems. He's talking to dead senators, and, he can't really meet with people because he forgets who he's meeting with. And, but they can't say anything. What is going on here? It's very clear that retaliation, loss of your job, retaliation against whistleblowers is huge. That's what's going on here. Violation of civil rights is huge. The tampering with elections is huge, because that's what Bill Hicks did. He schemed with Bob Moore and Justin Underwood to remove and replace Yvonne Rosales. And Yvonne Rosales is frozen. Frozen. She needs to start singing the Frozen song. She's just frozen. She doesn't know what to do. She knows the law. She knows what happened. And she is frozen in fear. Or she sees the lack of esprit de corps. I don't want to talk for her. I shouldn't say that. She's frozen. She's not coming back. And she absolutely is the duly elected district attorney and the holdover attorney, district attorney. She's the holdover district attorney because Bill Hicks is a usurper. He is illegal. He is illegitimate. He is not the DA. And you cannot have a gap. Therefore, everybody should be at Yvonne's door saying, hey, we need you to prosecute these cases. Because she's the one, she's the true prosecutor, not Bill Hicks. So, heck with Bill Hicks trying to run for re-election. Can you imagine what a joke that is? That is a terrible, terrible thing with what's going on with the Republican district attorney election right now. They're sticking money into someone that is a usurper, that is illegitimate, that's not even the DA. There is no Republican nominee right now. He can't be, because he's not the district attorney. I don't know how all that works. Someone can explain it to me. But, it's like our elections are all messed up. You can just go in there and do a coup. You can just go in there and tamper. You can just go in there and remove and replace with a petition off of a gag order that doesn't apply to anybody else, but cuts off the freedom of speech of the prosecutor. Judge Madrano is, well, I've been told he's the crookedest judge in El Paso history. That's what I've been told. I don't know. Other people can say it, but yeah. But now we have to find out, and a lot of these connections, some of them have been killed. It's no joke why people are afraid not to say anything. We can't say something for the good of the country. We can't say something for the good of our military. We can't say something for the good of El Paso because, can't upset the cart because then we're going to be retaliated against. We're going to be punished as a whistleblower. We're going to say, oh, the emperor has no clothes, and everybody's going to start throwing eggs and, whatever at us for saying the truth. I mean, that's what's going on right now. And it's just going to the level of ridiculousness and and national security threat. Because all the while we're afraid to say the truth and our country is getting weaker and weaker, you have armies developing. I mean, look at the comparison with the three military ads, the Chinese ad, the Russian ad, and the American ad with military. It's like, wow, wow. We need to get back to reality. We need to get real. And, one of the things that they slay against me day in and day out, try to smear me with is to say that I am not realistic. Sorry. Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. We have the receipts. We have the receipts. The government has admitted that. That is not something we've guessed at. We have the receipts and we have hard evidence, circumstantial evidence, irregularities that prove that. That is not even up for debate. Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. Do I wish I could report something else? Absolutely. And I have proven from years ago, I would say this is the first time in my motherhood that I hope that my son was a jerk because that would mean he was alive. But he wasn't. He's a hero and they murdered him. And we want his remains. And in order to get his remains and to get accountability, you see that whole declaration of death, they knew that it was overwhelming and they thought we'd take the receipts and maybe we would be satisfied. But we want his remains. And, Major General Eisenhower, James Eisenhower, was so disrespectful to us. The military has been so disrespectful to our son and to us. You know, Howell has been so disrespectful to us because he's compromised. Bill Hicks has been so disrespectful to us because he's compromised. Bob Moore has been disgraced, disgraceful. He is just so bad because he's compromised. That's why they have no esprit de corps. That's why they have no Medal of Honor ethos, no love for our country, because they have been compromised in serving foreign and domestic enemies for financial gain and power. And so, the likes of Leilani Hart and her witches, she surrounds herself with these self-proclaimed witches, right? And they'll say, most ridiculous things. Um, but they cannot argue with Diaz, to Alba, to Chavira, Sanchez. Um, you know, that's the DPS, y'all. The DPS has been infiltrated, has been, I don't want to say infiltrated, compromised. Compromised. The DPS has been compromised. The DA compromised. And that's why when it goes back to Moya, um, and of course to Bayim, which goes to Bradford Bugado, which is G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, which goes to Clem Coward, the commander of 32nd ADCOM. You know, you can absolutely understand how Rob's, because I went over there with him to Juarez, Mexico. I went into the Attorney General's, the big office there, to fill out the missing persons report for Richard. In we were over there, and you know, I didn't go into the office with. I went into the building, but I stayed out in the hallway and let them fill in the forms and everything like that. I talked with people and that. And I can tell you this, they tampered with that missing persons report. They tampered with it. Y'all, you can just tamper with any report, with any government report, and get away with it? So, what is reliable? What is trustworthy? They weaponize our military, they weaponize our DA office, they weaponize the DPS, they weaponize the Juarez, the Chihuahua AG office, they they weaponize the courts. They're ruining our system. And you know, no wonder so many people are getting hurt and their lives are being destroyed. And what the hell is Governor Abbott doing? Appointing Bill Hicks, who's a usurper and compromised by the Juarez cartel that's connected to other cartels. I mean, and we have 500,000 unaccompanied minors that are mostly dead. We don't. We have the fentanyl problem, or you know, whatever the drugs that they traffic through. You know, our problems are bigger than just the fentanyl. It's crazy, and the weapons and the ammunition. And here, a mother that, you know, where's my son? Where's my son? Oh, bring us leads, bring us leads. And, you know, it's like an onion. You uncover one after the other, and you're like, what? Really? This is what you wanted me to see? And and then intimidate me and threaten me not to say anything? But you're the one, you know, it's the command, it's the very people that are compromised that that drove us to investigate. And we got the car issue again, all these lies that happened at the beginning that we have to go back, and all this stuff with the car, all this stuff with this phone, all this stuff. You know, they are just such liars. and we pay them. They work for us and they're lying. What do you do when you have someone that you're paying big money to and they lie? Oh, I'm going to pay you to mow my lawn. Okay, ma'am, I'll mow your lawn and edge it and this and that. Okay, great, fantastic. And I'm going to, give you a bonus too. Great. And then you come home and nothing's done. Are you going to keep that company? Are you going to keep those people mowing your lawn when they're not even mowing your lawn, but you're paying them? I mean, we are being absolutely robbed. Robbed. And you know what that's called? Impersonating government officials and not giving honest service. Not providing honest service. They're not providing honest service. So what happens when they don't provide honest service? What's our responsibility then? That's a good question. When they don't give us due process, when they violate our civil rights, do not give us due process, do not give us honest service, what is our responsibility then? So, all right, everyone. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you, Anicia, for your prayers. I'm sorry I'm so late. Look how late I am tonight. But it was a pretty crazy day. Things are really happening in El Paso. And, um, you know, uh, maybe it's just um, the heat like on a pot, and who knows when it's going to start boiling. For the arrest to, well, we know things are happening, and we've just thank you for keeping up with this. Please share. Um, we've just, we only have what 20 something days until the election. This is super important for this. Um, it's so political, everything. Um, and I wish it wasn't. I wish it was about justice and our son, and that Democrats would do the right thing and Republicans would do the right thing for the love of our military, for the love of our volunteer soldiers, for the love of justice. I wish they would, but that's not the case. We're not getting honest service. And so the feds, Washington, have to come in to El Paso and make the adjustments. And wow. It is yeah, say some prayers and thank you so much and keep sharing. It's really up to us, right? It's up to us and our sharing and demanding, absolutely demanding that they do their job, driving them to do their job. So thank you so much. God bless you. And we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.